Hi, welcome to another episode of Candidly Fierce. I am your host, Terese Alexander, and I am the proud owner of Fierce Financial Services. Candidly Fierce is just a podcast where we're normalizing financial conversations. So it's like the finance world of Jada's Red Table Talk. So this week, we're going to jump straight into it. We have three beautiful couples here with us today, and we're going to be talking about dating and finance, the marriage edition. We're going to jump straight in, ask questions, see how their foundations were started, and let's see what makes these three beautiful couples different. They're still together, they're still happily married. Let's figure out how they're making that happen and what does finance look like in their households. All right, let's start this off with Kelly. Kelly, tell me about you and your husband.
I am Kelly Prout.
I'm Tyrell Prout.
And we have been married for 3.5 years.
Great. Thanks for joining, Kelly and Ty. Let's go down to Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy Johnson.
My name is Eric Johnson. We've been married for 15 years.
Thank you. Long time. Last but not least.
Hey, I'm Devin.
I'm Adrian.
And we've been married for 2 years.
2 years. So we have 3, 2, and 15. How y'all doing today? Y'all excited to be here? You ready to have this conversation? Y'all look nervous. So first question. So I'm going to actually ask this for the men. Let's start with the men. Yeah. In your dating periods, when you all decided that you were going to propose, right? That these beautiful women were the women you wanted to spend the rest of your lives with. Had you already had a conversation about financial stability?
I don't think we had like an intentional conversation about it. I think that there may have been some things that had come up. And I think that for us, like there were definitely pieces of our own individual finances that we were uncomfortable talking about. So that's probably why we didn't get into it intentionally. But we knew things here and there. But there was no like, let's sit down, let's figure all this out type of conversation.
I could speak for us. We were pretty much still college kids. I just graduated from college. I was graduating. Actually, the night I proposed to her was a Thursday night. I graduated that Saturday afternoon. So, and I really didn't have a good job lined up yet. So we really didn't talk about, I don't think we really talked about finances too much because Tracy was still in college. I was just graduating. We were just, I don't know. I think I was 23. She was 22. I don't think finances was even too much talked about. Not too much. I had some money saved up. I worked quite a few jobs while I was in school. So we never really talked about it back then. That was back in 04. My parents really didn't talk about finances as much. So that wasn't really
I get the answers are aligning with what I thought they would. But last but not least, Ty, you're different, right?
I don't think we talked too much about it. I know that in the beginning, she was trying to get herself out of debt, and I was trying to get out of debt due to my previous situation. So we didn't talk about it too. I think did we? I can't remember.
Kelly, you disagree with that answer?
Yeah, I just totally disagree.
Okay, Kelly. What was your perspective? Think back when you all were dating before Ty proposed. Do you think you all had a conversation about finance and stability and where he stood, where you stood?
We did. Yeah, like I told you, I was straight up, this is my student loans, this is what Navient want their money. This is where we were. I know you were coming out your previous situation. We talked about that and how you had a plan to pay that stuff off.
Yeah, so I guess we did.
We did.
Honestly, we did, yeah.
And we opened a bank account together and we started saving.
Okay, so I need y'all to be in the same marriage and remember the same conversations to make this conversation really good. Okay, question, right? When we think about a man, and this is for the wives, when we think about how we were taught, right? So I know I wasn't taught, we didn't have money conversations in the household, right? But I heard all the time that a man is supposed to protect and provide, protect and provide, protect and provide, right? And making your decisions. If you all didn't, so Kelly, I know your answer is going to be a little different, but if you all didn't have the conversations about finances, how do you know that he was going to be able to provide for you?
To be completely honest, I don't think that was something that was, I actually think I knew how it was going to go beforehand. Just because Devin has a previous situation where he has to be a little bit more of a financial provider there, just with our oldest son. And so I knew that I was going to have to take on a role that I never learned about. I mean, to your point, a lot of our family, it's the male is in control of the finances. So that was something we didn't talk about it. And so then stepping into our relationship and our marriage we have now 3 kids together. We were just kind of like, okay, I got to take on this role. And so I'm the person who is that person in our household. And so this is a learning curve, I think, for both of us. Like, we're both learning how to navigate that situation. But it caused for some really awesome conversations and tough conversations where you kind of feel like you're under a microscope and everybody's looking at what you're doing. And even though you're married, you're like, that's great. Just see all this good stuff, not this other stuff or these decisions that I may have made at a younger age. And so it's been fun. I mean, I love a challenge. I think Devin does too. So we're just leaning into it. And I think, trying to navigate through that.
Anybody else? Trey?
I would say for me, of course, what Eric was just saying, that, he was working and he was all about like working jobs. He's always been one that has taken care of his business. So I noticed that. And I knew that he would provide and take care and all of that. And then again, I also knew, we say this, like, people have potential. It's probably not the best term to use, but back 15 years ago, that was my thing. Like, he has potential. We're both college kids. I know we were both getting ready to graduate. We both were driven to make sure that, we had most definitely that we can advance more than what our parents did and what they were able to give us. So that was a big thing for us. And I knew that that was going to be, possible with me and him together. But just seeing that he was a hard worker, for me, that he wasn't lazy. I saw him work, and that was a big deal for me. And even just how he took care of me in our relationship. So that was a key sign for me to say, like, okay, I think I can move forward with him. But at the same time, too, it was also young. So you're looking at the very basic level of things, not necessarily a whole, what is this going to look like 20 years down the line, so which we're almost there.
So I was raised in 2-parent household, and my dad is military, so he basically took care of the majority of the bills or whatever. But my mom always instilled, Kelly, be your own woman, be able to provide for yourself. Like, don't ask a man for anything. You got this. Be able to provide for your, like that. I feel like that idea was ingrained in my head. Like, dating men with child men or men boys, or however you want to put it. I kind of feel like I came side-eyed when we started dating. I didn't think about, is he going to provide for me? I was like, well, if he can't do it, I'll be able to do it myself. I got married, I was in my mid-30s, and I was a independent single woman for years. And I've been handling all my business myself for years and years and years. So when I met him, and he's like, oh, I remember he took me to a ball, and he bought me a nice dress. He's like, I'll pay for your hair and makeup. I was like, you want the dress back afterwards? Like I don't know why my brain was just so jaded, probably because I had bad experiences from dating in the past. And I think we never had a conversation like, okay, it never clicked in my mind, like, how is he going to provide? But I saw his action. I saw how he took care of his parents, and his parents were up in age. And I'm like, yo, any man that's going to love his mom and take care of his elderly parents like that, he's going to do that for you times 10. And that's kind of where, like, my mind switched.
That's a good answer. So Kelly and Tracy brought up 2 points that I actually want to base my next question off of. So we'll start with Tracy's point when Tracy said that Eric had potential. She looked at the potential that he had, and she saw the potential in him because she looked at how he took care of her in college and how his work ethic was. So that leads me to potential versus patterns. So I think everyone has great potential, right? I think you all have mentioned something about previous situations, right? So you all have had a previous situation, good, bad, or indifferent, right? And in your previous situations, and it may not be yours directly, right? But it is something that affected you, right? When we think about a previous situation and how you all react the way that you react today. So my question will be, which one matters most to you? The potential of your mate or the patterns that your mate has? And then if your answer is potential, has the patterns changed? Does that make sense? So to give out an example, and this is really interesting because I know all 3 of you all very well, 3 couples very well. So if I go with Tracy, right, and I talk to Tracy about Eric and his work ethic, I know that Eric, I call you a Jamaican because I know you will work and you have a crazy work ethic, right? That is a pattern that you displayed in college. So now 15 years later, however, is that a good pattern from a perspective of how your bond and your family structure or your physical presence is together? I'm gonna give an example for kind of everybody, right? Kelly and Ty. Kelly, I know you are Miss I can't even spell it now. INDEPEND.
INDEPENDENT. What you know about me, man? Just checking.
That is Kelly, right? And you see how her husband is looking at her. So that is Kelly, right? But it makes me think, so I'm actually combining my question because it makes me think of how does that whole I'm independent. Do you need me to give this back to you? Why are you doing this? How did that help your bond and coming into a joint mindset, right? Because when you all got married, you turned that I into a we, right? You are now one, right? So Ty, you saw the potential. You saw she could be great, right? But her pattern was, I got to do everything by myself. It's all about me. This is how I handle it. This is how we gonna do it because this is the only way I know how to be done because the patterns in my past caused X, Y, and Z, right?
But I saw the patterns that he displayed.
Wait. You're thinking about your answer. See, this is what I'm talking about. You over here trying to jump in already. You thinking about your answer.
This is a long-winded question. So.
Oh no, I'm giving everybody so I'm gonna start back with Tracy. I'm giving everybody the equal amount of time to kind of think through everything they want to say. Y'all can talk to each other, make sure y'all on the same page of the answer, right? So last but not least, Adrian and Devin. Devin, you had a previous situation. You already had a set of responsibilities. You already knew what you needed to do to provide and take care of. As Adrian said, she was now thrown into a role that she had no idea about, right? And if we talk about her patterns, right, she had, but hadn't started to create them yet, right? Because, our family, we come from a huge family of nothing but women, right? We didn't have a lot of men. I came from a 2-parent household. We had Uncle Dave was there for a period of time. Your dad was there for, you know what I mean? But we didn't have that strong male dominance to depend on and to rely on so we could do that. So you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of potential to be great. But when I talk about the patterns may show something different. So how did you all, clearly we have marriages 2 years, 3 years, and a great 15 years. How did you all bring that cohesiveness together? Looking at y'all facial expressions is so interesting. How did you bring that cohesiveness together, right, to get to where you all are today? Tracy, start with you.
That's actually a really good question. And I do think that I did notice a pattern early on, along with the potential, which is what led me to say, like, okay, he has potential because this is already kind of a pattern. Now, what I did not know is, of course, when you start adding in other things into your marriage, it's different when it's just me and you, because we most definitely could find those times, like even early on in our marriage, it was about 3-4 years before we started having children. So even that whole dynamic was completely different. We were always traveling, we were always out and about. It wasn't a big of a deal that you're working as often as you are, because there was still enough time to find that time to put in other things that we needed to do with each other. And then as we added in that new dynamic of 1 kid, then eventually 2, and now we're up to 3, and that's it. But all of those times in it, each time anything new came along, it changed the dynamic and it changed the pattern. So, maybe going from, at first, when we first got married, I remember him having 2 jobs, one in the day and then one that he was doing at night. That was just more so because, for him, we did our thing, but it's like, all right, there's nothing else for me to do. I can go make this extra money, and it wasn't a problem for me early on. Yeah, sometimes. But not as much as when we started adding in like the kids and stuff, because now it's like, all right, now we don't have time to do this and everything. So it still became a pattern, but that pattern changed our dynamic because of other, things that was adding into the marriage. When we started to grow, I see some disagreement there. Or didn't know I felt that way, but
Eric, you got anything you want to add, disagree, agree with?
I agree with what she said. I really don't have anything to add. She's right.
Are there any signs or patterns or that Tracy had that you felt like she was too independent, or her previous situations played a impact?
No, I don't think any of her previous situations played an impact. She is independent. She still is independent. And that doesn't bother me at all, because I think she does a decent job, a pretty good job as far as balancing the fact that she is independent and still recognize that I am still the head of the household. She still does that and still can be able to be who she is at the same time. I would never want to take that away from her.
Okay.
I'm the man that I will allow her to be who she is as well.
Thank you. Kelly and Todd?
Again, I was in my mid-30s and I was too old to be dating for potential. I dated for potential and the potential just failed. I was dating with a purpose. And I had, like, when I said these were the criteria that you had to have this X, Y, and Z, and if you didn't have it, deuces. So I saw patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been an excellent husband, an excellent father. I think it's important to marry the right person, because submission is not something that's forced. Submission is something, it comes naturally. And submission, not that, oh, I'm the husband, I rule over you, but trusting your husband enough to know he's got your back. He's making the best decisions for your family.
How is your transition from independent to joint going?
I think it's going pretty good, but it's because I trust him. He has 150% of my trust. And trust is not something that's just given, it's earned. He's earned my trust. And he's proven like he's an excellent provider. He takes very good care of our family and providing not necessarily from a financial sense, but being a motivator. Before COVID, I wanted to work a part-time job just to feel like old Kelly. And he allowed me to do that. Sometimes I traveled for work. He took on the responsibility with our baby. So
with Kelly, I saw a pattern. She was a real go-getter, and I knew she would be. I saw a pattern and potential, I guess, in the combination. I saw the pattern that she was a hard worker and everything. I knew that she would have a great career path ahead of her. So I did see potential. One day she'll buy me them 25-inch chrome rims.
Okay. Last but not least, the Walkers.
I don't know if I was thinking along the lines of potential and patterns and whatnot, but I think if I reflect back The one pattern that Adrian has been consistent with is just being able to get things done. And we've been talking about women being independent, and like everybody on here is independent in their own way, right? But I think Adrian takes her independence in this way of like, it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter how much it is, like she's gonna figure out a way to make sure that can happen. And I think for us, it provides a great balance because like with our oldest son and just with how my experiences were prior to our relationship, and we're really into our relationship too, but there was a lot of struggle for me. So I operated in a way of like, I really just don't have it. When it comes to trying to save or where to spend money here and there, like that wasn't a concept for me necessarily. Like I knew it, but I wasn't operating in that. We talk about patterns because I ain't had nothing to give to nothing. I had nothing to spend on anything. You know what I mean? So where Adrian and I, and you may differ, but where Adrian and I mesh really well is in that, in all of the things that may provide anxiety for me because of how I just learned how to operate financially. Her like make it happen. This is like, no, we got this and we can do X, Y, Z, or we need to shift this around, that kind of thing. We can both figure those things out, but she's just already wired to do that. It's a great balance for us that I think is learned. I don't necessarily think it comes from like seeing a potential. It's just leaning into the patterns that were already there, and then allowing each other to kind of grow together along the way, if that makes sense.
So for me, it was definitely potential. No, I do agree with what you're saying, and I appreciate that. But yeah, I definitely think it was potential because so for Devin, I mean, take us back to I had just graduated from undergrad. Devin's 5 years older than me, so he had already graduated. But he was, and while he can say he didn't have much to offer, he was in grad school. So to me, I'm like, oh, you're working towards something. Cool. That's all I could ask for. And then you're in grad school and we get pregnant with our first together. And I'm like, I graduated, I have my own job, I have my own car, I have my own place. We're fine. Like either you're going to move here or I'll move, like we'll figure it out. But he just like, I think it's your personality, to be honest. Devin is a calm, cool, collected person. And so even when his world is burning down, he's like, we're fine. It's fine. We'll figure it out. And he doesn't give himself enough credit for that. So even in situations where, a job comes up because we're now in LA and he's like, I don't know how we're going to make it work because of his personality trait of like, what is this going to look like? I'm like, it's fine. If this is what you want to do, this is where we're going. It's going to be really hard. We're going to need a lot of prayer, but it'll be okay. And I think, I don't know, I think he's right. Like it's a mesh and it's a balance. And as long as he's continuing to be himself, but growing in that, I can't ask for anything else. And I like that he allows me to be perfectly imperfect and growing within myself as well.
Perfectly imperfect. I love that. So a lot of things come to mind, right? In listening to you all. I love that the fact that you all love each other and you are happy that you all married the right people. However, there's too much praise giving right now. So I'm going to have to start asking a little more difficult questions because, yeah, according to y'all, everything is great. And I love it. I want to make sure everything is great. But I think what we need to talk about is how you got to be great and how you got to make sure that, I know there's some tests because you all referenced, there has been some hard times, right? But before I go to my next question, Eric, you have a question, right?
Yeah, I had a question for Kelly and is it
Tyrell.
Yeah, when your wife, Tyrell, when your wife said she wanted to work a part-time job just so she could feel like she have her stuff back, or so she feel more normal for her. How was that? How was that transition, and where you felt like you were able to allow her to do that?
I never had an issue with her working her second job. The only issue I ever have her working a second job was it's a real minute thing. It was a safety issue because she would get off late at night sometimes doing that, the thing. So that was my only issue ever with that. So I didn't like the fact, like I have to, like when she got off, I made her like get on the phone with me until she got to her vehicle and stuff like that. I think one time we got in a kind of a heated argument was she was working and she got on the metro and she wasn't paying attention and got off at the wrong metro station where there had just been a robbery like the day before. And I was like, oh man, how you do that? Blah, blah, blah. But point is, I never had an issue with her doing the part-time thing. I just, that's what one of the qualities that I loved about her, or I love about her, is the fact that she was such a hard worker and she, did what she had to do to accomplish her goals.
And then after we had the baby and got married, I would say I slowed down. I didn't, like before, I could work both jobs 5-6 times a week. But after like I had my baby, I just may have done it once a week. And it wasn't necessarily for a monetary like reasons. It was like, this is like a hobby. I enjoy doing this.
Right.
Did that answer your question, Eric?
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else has any other questions for any other couples? Y'all good? All right, my turn. So y'all didn't have conversations when it came down to finances and stability. Y'all looked at potential and patterns to make y'all decisions that y'all wanted to be together, right? So I'm assuming that based off of these potentials and patterns, y'all decided if one of you was a budgeter and one of you was a saver, or it didn't matter. Did it matter? Did it not matter? Did y'all figure that out before?
I would say he was the budgeter, saving. He's very good at saving. And my parents didn't really teach me about saving. It was more of have good credit, pay your bills on time, but not make sure you're paying yourself. My parents didn't really teach that. And then I was in a financial crunch for a few years. I had another house in Alabama and I was paying rent in Maryland. So it was just me trying to do everything. So I didn't have the income to be able to save as much as I wanted to. But when I got with him, he taught me how to save.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was growing up, my father kind of tried to instill in me, my brother and I, to save. His famous saying was save some, spend some. I mean, with everything. Talking about money, save some money, spend some money. Talking about food, eat some food, save some food. That was just his thing. So I guess from the time I was little, that's always been pushed in.
How you thought about it?
Yeah.
All right. Tracy and Eric, who's the budgeter? Who's the saver? Did y'all know? Do y'all know now?
Yeah, we knew. Eric most definitely was the budgeter. And when I say that, I'm like, I budgeted too, but his was more extreme than mine. So that actually, I'm not gonna lie, that did cause a little rift there, because especially at the time, even talking about independent, what Kelly was saying or whatever, it was like, listen, I earn this money, this is my money, and nobody don't tell me what to do with my money. Tracy gonna spend her money like she wants to spend her money. My bills are paid, I got savings. At that time, I had money because I ain't have no kids. So I spent it on things I wanted to. I traveled where I wanted to. I spent my cash where I felt like I wanted to spend it. And he most definitely, especially our first couple years of marriage, it was like, you don't have to slow this down.
Before.
Well, yeah, he tried to do it before, but I kind of, because I was letting him be the head, I kind of let him control it a little bit more when we got married. But before then, we still dating until we actually at that altar and he puts us together. We do that final kiss and we walk out of there together. So that was my thought the whole time. But so, it was hard for me to let go of some of the things that I was doing before. Like, it was like, well, you can't spend this here. And I'm like, well, why? What are you talking about? Like, you're taking this away from me. And it was the wrong way to look at it. Of course, I know that now because it was a really good start for us to be starting our family and not me giving it away like I was before, because I just thought I had it to do. But I mean, to get into that new pattern, as we're talking about right now, because he was right, but it was like, I'm still working, still making my own money. What are you talking about? We're just bringing this together. Like, I'm gonna put, for example, I didn't do $5, but I'm like, I'll give you $5 to go toward whatever you're trying to say, but the rest of this is mine. And every now and then, I mean, there's still a few days where I'm like, I want to have a month to free spend. Like, I want to no holds barred type of month.
You say a whole month?
Huh?
It's months.
You know.
It's plural. It's not singular.
We've been married for 15 years, so you got to add all that together. It's not a month, but I like nice things. I want to do nice things, blah blah. So I'm not gonna say that. I am one of the ones that's like, if I want to spend it, I want to spend it, and then I have my times where I don't want to spend anything. But at that moment, I guess this is the disagreement part. But with all that being said, he most definitely is the budgeter. And one thing about Eric, he's actually in the accounting field. So that is his thing anyway. He's all about no, we got to put a hold on this and this is what we're going to do. So I know that that's part of his personality and what he enjoys to do as well. So I think he felt like for a while that he had to tame me. That might sound like a harsh word, but just know that it wasn't that kind of taming. But
Okay. You okay over there, Eric?
I'm fine.
we're good together. You guys would know that.
All right. The Walkers.
Pre-marriage, I don't think either one of us were budgeters or savers at all. I don't know if you agree with that. I would just say that was the last thing I was thinking about. To be honest, after we moved here, we got married probably within months of us moving here. It became very clear very quickly that we needed to figure something out. So we were doing everything separate until we moved here. So it's been, like we said, we've been married for 2 years. So it's been a learning curve in this 2-year period. And in this 2-year period, we've had 2 additional children. So every time we figure it out, there's something else. You hear my other one, she's having a good time talking to someone. I have no idea who. But yeah, so I'm sorry, she's so cute. Okay, no, but every time we figure out a pattern or some type of way to budget or save, a curveball comes in, whether it's like, oh, I'm pregnant, just to let you know, or I don't know, something comes up. COVID changed everything. I know everybody went through that. And so working full time, both of us, him staying home full time with our kids and then our middle one still being in school, that changes the dynamic of how and when you make money. And then I'm at work all day. So Devin's been stay-at-home working dad since COVID started. So it's just like, I feel like we're being stretched and pulled. And so when it comes to budgeting and saving, now we're a lot more intentional, but we definitely weren't before.
Nah, and my parents didn't really share a lot about finances growing up, at least their own finances. I think they learned a lot about finances later in life. But like, I got my dad's desire to want to spend money on things, but I got my mom's like harmfully practical, like, we ain't got it, you can't afford it, you can't do it, you can't get it mentality. So in the years when I barely had it, like, that was easy. I didn't budget because I didn't have anything to budget. I didn't save, I ain't had nothing to save. So so I didn't really have, in college, right? Like, college, that wasn't the mentality. The little bit I had, I was trying to spend, having a good time. So I didn't have a lot of the years alone to really figure all that out. So she's right. We didn't come into this knowing budget and spend. I think where we are now, we're in a pretty decent groove in that she knows where we need to spend what we have, and where we have flexibility and where we don't. And I'm still sitting in the space of, I don't want to spend a dime that we have, but we got this joint account, just make it happen, and I can sit in my anxiety and we'll be okay. And that's continued growth to get out of that, so that we're in the same place and where we want our finances to go and whatnot.
Good point. I have an exercise, but I want to circle back to Kelly.
I forgot to I talked about savings. I didn't talk about budgeting. I don't feel like we've been on the same page with budgeting. I have my own budget. He has his own budget. We're good at saving, but the breakdown once a week, who gets paid, what gets paid. I know I have X, Y, and Z bills. He knows he has X, Y, and Z bills, and we don't come together on budgeting.
Is that because of previous relationships and situations, or is that because of that's how you were taught, or is it just a choice that y'all made that y'all just don't want to come together?
To be honest, I don't know why we really don't budget 100% together. We're good at saving together, but sitting down, breaking it down week by week.
Just, I don't know why we haven't. Just those conundrums in this.
Do you feel like your previous relationships have maybe scarred you where you're like, all right, or your parent, I don't know how your parents, did they budget together, or like your dad had certain bills and your mom had certain bills?
I have no clue. I really don't. I don't know what they did. They were old school, so kids stay out grown folks' business. I know they kept the lights on, kept the mortgage paid, and got us our stuff. So,
is that something y'all want to try to get to together, or are y'all in this thing of it's not broke?
I want it.
You've talked about it.
I want it, but there's no action to make it happen on Tyrell's end.
I want to double tap on what they said. I don't think we have either. We had not in a long time. So, but we tried doing the budget thing together before. It just didn't work, in my opinion, because I'm more fearful. So like I said, we stayed in my in the child's place too, but we knew when stuff was going wrong, when our lights were cut off, or the car was repossessed, or we had to move out this house. So I'm more operating fear more than not necessarily trying to. And I get anxiety. I'm with you, Debbie. I get anxiety. What I usually do? What's what I'm looking for? I crash. And it's been a point that I was crashing so bad that Tracy had to take over the finances for a couple of years because I was just like, this is just not. It ain't working. So
I think the mindset's different too, because I know with me, I hate debt. I hate credit card debt. Like I took a class and like I try to like snowball. Like them student loans, I feel like that cloud is always over my head. Like I don't know how, maybe because I struggled financially for a few years with, having a house in a different state and then paying up here and then cars and just not having the income to afford everything when I should have probably just sold it. But I'll talk about my family. Oh, that's a good achievement. You bought a house. I was like 26 when I bought my house, whatever. In our community, we look at that house as, oh, that's your wealth. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what I'm doing to keep that. Mm-hmm. Just the image, but to keep up that house and things falling apart, and it just became a crazy situation. I feel like that kind of scarred me. And I feel like even though I'm not in the same financial place that I was, but I'll still have that mindset like I'm just one check away. I'm just one check away from everything falling apart again. And I don't ever want to have to work the second job, because that money was needed. I had to work it. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like the catering, there was times I didn't have money for food to put in my refrigerator, but I knew I was eating that night because I had the catering gig. And that's a tough situation to be in. But thank God he put me in the right second job where I never went hungry.
This conversation right now reminds me of a previous podcast that we recorded. It pointed out that we all face some type of PTSD with money, right? And it points out, so what I had everyone do is talk about or reflect on the first time money had an impact on their life. Think back to the first time you remember money. So it may not be a direct situation that has something to do with you. It could be something with a parent, but it's the first time that you truly understood the value of $1, right? And then I tell them, after they thought about the situation, I asked them to think now on how they operate today and all the decisions they've made between that day and today. So for me, the first time I remember money was 24 years ago. The exercise made me realize that how I felt in that moment is how I feel today, right? And I'm still fighting through not having those fears and not feeling the way that I felt back then. And so it dictates how I am with money. It dictates how I move forward. It dictates what happens in my life, right? And so now the new exercise is to create a new truth, right? So I hear you all talking about, things that our parents didn't teach us, things that we may have went through as kids, right? As it relates to money, I'm hearing some great stories about how you have intentionally changed your patterns. So none of that stuff happens to you today. So now you all are creating new truths, but you're so afraid of what happened to you in the past that you're still stuck and living in that old moment, right? So it's all PTSD from money issues. Am I making sense? So now the new exercise will be about making new truths and living in your moment and living in who you are, right? Because guess what? All of y'all are parents. So you're creating the new truth for your children, right? And so if you're so stuck into what happened with your parents, right? This is how generational curses happen, right? Because we're so afraid of the dynamics that we're running from that a part of us is still carrying out or creating a new dynamic for our kid. Y'all get how I'm looking at it? Like, okay, so I'm afraid to spend money. I'm afraid that my lights is going to get cut off or a car is going to get repoed. So I'm going to work, right? But now my new truth from my child is I don't know what my dad did. My dad was never at home. We didn't do this. We didn't do that because my dad was always at work. That's not the truth that you face, like, and why you're doing it. But now this is the effect it's having on your kid because of the PTSD issue that you have, whether we look at it that way or not. Make sense? And I think this is a very, very good conversation. And I actually want to kind of wrap up with asking two parts. The first thing I want to ask you all about is I've heard several times that you trust your partner. You all married the right people. You all are working it out. It's been fun. Let's say one person manages money in your household. So everybody pick who manages money in your household. Adrian, Eric, and y'all both do. Okay, so this would be, but you have a joint savings account, right? Who manages the money in the joint savings account?
It manages itself. We just save.
All right, look, I'm going to say that Ty manages the money in the savings account. I'm going to pick. All right. So Eric, Ty, Adrian. Here's the thing. Kelly, Tracy, and Devin, they want to buy something that costs $1,000. Be it a trip, be it whatever, right? The answer is no. No rhyme or reason. The answer is no, right? And it could be maybe y'all ain't buying nothing. Maybe somebody called y'all and said, hey, I desperately need money. All you know is you need this $1,000. You know that the money is in your account and you know that all of your bills are paid and whatever is set aside for you to save is saved. Okay. However, the problem is the key to that account. In order for you to get the money, you have to go through your spouse. Your spouse's answer is no. No rhyme or reason why. What is your reaction? You trust them. Y'all told me how y'all spouses are great people. You love the decisions they make. You know that they're doing whatever is best for you, but the answer is just flat out no. What's up?
And I do keep hearing you say
Be
this
careful.
distrust thing. And of course we do. We trust each other and stuff. But I can tell you right now, if that was a situation, it would be a situation. because this one is going to say no.
The first, the second, and third
I'm not
time.
going to even start saying that I need $1,000. Period. I'm not even starting with, as soon as I said the, ow, he's already like, no, you ain't even listen to it. And that has been, yeah, that can be an issue sometimes. But again, that goes back to what he just explained about like how he's like, wait a minute, because we might need this $1,000 for da 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 da, and that ain't even what's happening right then and there. Yeah, I don't really know how you want me to answer that question, but I know that his answer would be no, and I know it will cause a few. And let me say this: eventually, I will more than likely get my way. I don't like to say it like that. I will more than likely get the $1,000, but it will be there will be some type of compromise in there. Like, listen, this is what I needed. Remember when I let you do that, you know? So there's some of those things you got to kind of add up to. But I know how he is. So as soon as you started with the scenario, I'm like, shh.
Kelly?
Tyrell ain't gonna tell me no.
Ty, you wouldn't tell her no?
What was she needed for?
It doesn't matter. It could be Kelly wants a new purse.
A new purse.
It costs $1,000.
Costs $1,000.
You buy it for me.
Yeah, I'll probably buy it for me. I mean, you know, maybe my philosophy is different from mine. As long as everything is paid, the bill's paid, our son's taken care of, I give her the money. I can always put it back. I ain't no issue. You know what I mean? Okay. But like my man said, like I'm sorry, not my man, but what you said, be some repercussions or whatever. So $1,000 purse, that means Tyrell is gonna get that $1,000 whatever, or not even $1,000, but you know what I mean. If that might seem like really superficial, it should be no issue. You know what I mean?
There is no issue now.
Yeah, I'm saying if you know, yeah.
Yeah.
So you know,
I already give my $1,000. Wait, I can give $1,000 to somebody and let that person borrow it, and it still probably won't be an issue.
Oh, it depends on
Oh.
what the deal is, and now if she has some crack-headed cousin that wants to borrow $1,000, see that might be an issue because I know you're gonna go and have a $1,000 crack party. You know what I mean, so it's
within reason.
Within reason. Okay. Last but not least, the Walkers.
I'm gonna just say, okay. Here's the thing. I'm picking choose my battles, and like I'm gonna just let it ride. That may come back around. When we were talking about Adrian, like Adrian's good, and it's never been $1,000. But like, if I'm trying to do something, which doesn't happen often, and she's like, "Nah, we can't do that." I'm like, "Cool," but Adrian will try and find a way for it to happen later down the road. Like that's Adrian. She's gonna find a way to make it happen. But I will always be like, okay, especially being somebody that already has anxiety around spending. So if you tell me it can't happen, then that makes perfect sense to me in my mind. So I'm good. I'm not gonna fight that fight. We'll keep it pushing.
Okay. So let me tell you why I asked y'all this question. This new generation, right, believes that the person that controls the bag has the power. So because of the person that controls the bag has the power, there has been several fights. I've had several clients come in and talk about divorce over not being able to spend money, right? And so then I bring in the whole accountability partner, right? Because you all are supposed to be each other's accountability partner.
I'm sorry, Terese, not to interrupt you, but when you say who holds the bag, do you mean like who controls the finance or who makes the most?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, and even if we talk about it from that perspective, right? For whatever reason, it has been my experience that men are increasingly becoming uncomfortable with their female making more money because it's a competition, right? For where somewhere along the lines, how much money has been a competition sport. Me personally, I don't think if I'm dating you, I need to tell you how much money I make. I don't think that's none of your business. That's how I feel. That should not be a question, right? However, I do know that right now that is a question. Y'all okay over there?
When we first started dating, I said, "Oh wow, Kelly got some money." Highly disappointed. You just broke his me.
But yeah, it matters. Like, I'm dating again, and I can tell you that I have been told straight up, like, if you don't make six figures and if your credit score isn't this, like, I can't talk to you. Well, you will never know what I make, and you don't know my credit score because I don't know where this is going, and I'm not giving you that information. That matters in this generation. So I asked the question just to see from a marriage perspective, people who have gone through the dating process, right? People who are married, you all have now been married for some time. Does it matter, right? How do you all cope, right? Because this is going to go to people who are married, people who are single, people who are divorced, widowed, right? Like, to see the ones that successfully made it through and still making it. How does it matter? Y'all going to figure it out. Y'all going to make some compromises over here. Who knows what y'all compromises going to be, but y'all going to make it work, right? Or as Devin said, he's just gonna pick his battles wisely, and like, yo, I ain't fighting over that. Kelly was like, yo, you know what? He just gonna buy it for me anyway. Oh, no, all right. Tyrell hoping to get them 25-inch chrome rims. So hey, he like, yo, I'm gonna make it do what it do. And Tracy said, I ain't even gonna ask. We gonna nickel and dime on some kind of other way, and we just gonna get it.
No. I said, yeah, no. I'm going to ask. I said
I'm gonna say
he's going to say no. And we might have some discussions. I'm coming back. Like, okay, so what about this? And what about that? I'm not giving in to that.
Oh yeah, so I said, you gonna nickel and dime them. You gonna get it.
I'm gonna get it. Yeah. If I gotta break it up, because sometimes it's about like not seeing it all at once either. So if I gotta grab little bits here and there to get to my amount, so there's some strategies there. You gotta
and I am willing to compromise.
Strategic.
I said, because we each month we have a set budget for ourselves. So I'll say, hey, since you're going to go a little bit over your budget for this month, we could break it down for the next 4 months. Say, hey, you're gonna take a little bit off each month.
So Mr. Accountant, that brings up a really good point. Actually, that may be how I end this. You have a budget. Are you reconciling your budget?
I'm about to reconcile as soon as we get off the I need to pay I ain't paid the bills for the week yet. So yeah, I have a spreadsheet. I calculate to T how much she spent on her budget. I told Tracy, said these last few months, I'm to the penny. I'm literally to the penny. I am straight up. And for me too, I'm like, hey, I went up, even to myself. I said I went over my budget for this month. So next month I need to cut it back. So yeah, to the T. I do the spreadsheet every month. I have a big old thing going back up to at least probably about 5 years. Sorry.
That's the accountant in you, right? That is the accountant in you. So I would expect that to be your answer. However, there are a lot of people who don't reconcile their budget, right? Like, you set your budget. We know that we're going to spend X, Y, and Z, but then let's actually pull out the bank statement to see if we spent the money the way that we said we were going to spend the money. Are there any other questions anybody has?
I wanted to, if Jordan will let me, address what you said about just the generational things and the this new generation mentality, because I was thinking about how and maybe the generation before us would say the same about us, but until you know what struggle looks like, especially struggle with somebody else, you're gonna have that mentality. Because at the end of the day, like, we've been without. I mean, Kelly, you were talking about, I was working at a catering business. I'm like, I was at a shelter, like, hey, can we get a couple of plates so that, our kids could eat before us, So I get that. But if you've never gone through that, then you don't know. And yeah, then the bag and who makes the money matters. It's just this mentality that I think they'll learn eventually, like what that means. And that's unfortunate, that you've talked about, even people like talking about divorce and things like that, in that, because it's struggle. Like, I think it goes back to not just finances, but marriage it's glorified. It's idolized in a way of like, oh, this is a goal. We have to be this. And I'm excited that, women are becoming more empowered and like, no, like, I can bring something to the table too. I think that's a beautiful piece. And then the men who are like, yeah, that's my baby. Like, she did that, is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we just have to have that mentality when it comes to marriage and finances. And if you have that, then when you do fall on hard times, that love is there, that foundation is there, that faith is there, all those things. And so I think if I want anybody to get anything out of what you just said, I think that we would all echo that message of like, that's what it's about.
Mhm.
It's not going to look perfect. It's, like I said, perfectly imperfect. And you have to be able to ride the wave because the waves are coming and they're going to keep coming. And when you pass, they keep coming. And so, yeah, I just love that you mentioned that one to make sure that I address that.
Oh, thank you. What you just said made me think about marriage from the perspective of it's a job, right? As you said, that people do glorify marriage. People want to hurry up and get married. Like that is the end goal. It is a job to get married. It is a job to stay married. And it is a job to make that marriage work, because every day is not peaches and cream, right? You're dealing with a whole nother person who thinks differently than you, who wants something different than you, right? Who comes with their own set of issues, right? But it is a job, right? It takes a lot of love, trust in God, and faith, right? To make it work, right? I know something my mom says all the time is, I love you, but I don't like you, right? I love you, right? But I ain't gotta like you today, right? And when I say I don't like you, that don't mean divorce. That means, you just going over in your room right there. And maybe I'll like you tomorrow, or maybe I'll like you in 10 minutes. But as for right now, I don't like you, right? And it's about people knowing how to purposely work through this, right? And I think one of the things when I think about money or marriage, right? And the reason why I wanted to talk about money with married couples, right? Because right now you hear so much about people being submissive or not submissive, or people being independent, or everybody just want to go get married, right? If I think about all the posts I see on social media right now, it's like, well, God send me a husband. God's not like, you have to be whole, right? And I think the beauty of this is everyone in this conversation was able to speak from their own previous experiences where they were whole. They went through a struggle. Everyone kind of referenced that you knew who you were before you became one, right? And I think that's really important. You had your own ideals of money, whether they were right or wrong, you had an idea, right? Whether you knew what you were doing or you didn't know what you were doing, you had an idea. So you had something to bring to the table. So Devin, stop saying you ain't have anything to bring to the table. You had something to bring to the table because you had an experience. You knew what didn't work. You knew what you didn't want to look like. You get what I'm saying? So therefore you knew what to do, right? The fact that you're going through this trial, what did y'all call y'all period? Y'all still in y'all trial in it. It wasn't a trial in area. What did you call your 2-year period, Dre? A trial zone, or you called it something? Honeymoon phase. I don't remember what you called it. But the fact that y'all still married, right? You know how many people didn't make it to this point, right? To say, hey, we were able to do X, Y, and Z, right? Or we went through these struggles. Y'all went through these struggles, and the struggles, every couple has their own set of issues, right? Knockdown, drag out issues, but you made it, right? And I think, though, from another perspective, when we talk about the struggles that we have, unfortunately, because we don't have conversations about money, when we're really struggling or needing something, we don't have people that we can normalize and go to say, hey, we need help without being judged, right? We don't have people that we can say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. I don't need you to ask me 50 million questions on how I got here. I need you to help me get out of here, right? And maybe your help can't be money. Maybe your help is a conversation. Maybe your help is telling me where I can go, but I need your help, right? One of the reasons why Candidly Fierce exists, right? I want to normalize these conversations where we can all kind of talk, have these conversations, whereas it just makes you talk to each other. It just makes you think about some situations or maybe some other conversations that need to be had that y'all have never had, right? But it's a normalization, and hey, it's something to say, hey, I'm not by myself. Okay, you know what? I went through this situation, and guess what? So-and-so went through this situation, right? Because I truly believe that God uses the test in our lives to be testimonies in someone else's. I just want to continue to empower you all to be great, to continue to love on each other, to start having conversations with your children, right? Another thing that we all said is our parents didn't have conversations with us about money. Let's have conversations with our babies about money, right? Let's talk to them, and I know some of y'all got babies that don't know, that won't have a clue of what y'all talking about today, but it's a way to start having these. So then when they start thinking of money traumas and the things that affect them, yes, it affected us, but this is how we also overcame it, right? I think if our parents would have had more conversations with us over the struggles that they went through and how they overcame the struggles that they went through, it will make us feel better in moving forward about said issues, and we can react better. Make sense? All right. So I thank you all for being here. Looking forward to the next conversation, and thanks for joining Candidly Fierce. Thank you for streaming Candidly Fierce. We really hope that you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to rate and review us wherever you stream this podcast. As always, the views and the opinions are those of our guests and our host alone. Now go out and have a fierce day on purpose. See you soon.